My fiancé yelled at me that I was jealous of his sister because I could never be as good as her and slapped me in the face. So my dad punched his guts and knocked him out. I am getting married to Roy. We met in college and hit it off right away. He's handsome, charming, smart, and supportive. We fell in love and planned our entire future together. We planned where to live, how many kids to have, vacations, college, fun for children, retirement, etc. I love him so much. He's my soulmate and my best friend. He would tell me he was proud of me whenever I achieved something. He's super supportive of my dreams and ambitions. He'd motivate me to take up projects I was hesitant to do. He'd reassure me that I'm capable and talented enough. He'd compliment me every time I got dressed to go out and tell me how lucky he was to have me as his girlfriend. Roy's father passed away when he was just 8 years old, and his elder sister, Kim, was 10. His mother, Yami, never remarried. She's a very kind and sweet lady. I never got to know Kim as she lived in a different city for work and rarely visited us. We got engaged 8 months ago in an engagement ceremony. Kim moved back to our city and found a job here. This is when things started to get complicated. It's customary here for the girl's parents to pay for the wedding. My dad hired a wedding planner and told me to plan the wedding with them to my and Roy's liking. When we started planning, my future mother-in-law stayed out of it. But Kim would tag along with us wherever we went. To the florist, to the wedding planner's office, to the caterers. Everywhere. I wanted it to be just Roy and me. I told him that I didn't like future sister-in-law third-wheeling, something the two of us must have been doing together. He told me that Kim just wanted to be involved in her brother's wedding, and that I should be more welcoming of her. I would have been okay if she'd kept her mouth shut and not given us her valuable input. When I choose flowers, it would be to pastel choose a different color palette. When I suggest the chair arrangement to the planner, she'd say, "That won't give a proper view to the guests on the far left." I wanted to have coconut pudding at my wedding. It was my absolute favorite dessert growing up, and I wanted to share it with my guests on my wedding day. But guess what? No, not coconut. I'm allergic. What angers me the most is that Roy always takes her side when it's my choice versus her choice. He wouldn't fight or anything. He'd say, "It doesn't matter which flower it will be as long as you're my bride. Let it go, babe. It's not a huge deal. The only important thing is that we're marrying each other and starting a new life together." When the coconut pudding happened, he asked me not to be selfish, as it's not just about me. It's about both of us and our families. He said Kim is family, and I cannot exclude her from having the food at our wedding. I was frustrated. At this point, it's as if we're planning Kim's wedding and not mine. The final straw was when we were shopping for wedding dresses. Wedding wear would be an appropriate word, as it is our traditional clothing. My mom picked out this beautiful green dress for me, and I loved it so much. But Kim had to poke her nose here as well. She told me that I should try something else because green isn't my color. Roy agreed with her. Then I tried different dresses and finally decided on a rose gold dress I liked too. We then started to shop for the families of the bride and the groom. When it was Kim's turn, I kid you not, this peach picked out the same green dress and decided she was going to buy it. I lost it. I didn't want to make a scene, so I walked out. Roy and I had a huge fight about this at home. He told me that green wasn't going well with my skin tone and that it suited Kim better. That I should stop acting so immature, and that Kim picked that dress after I'd already picked mine. I couldn't believe my ears. For the first time since we started planning our wedding, I noticed he's always taken Kim's side and never mine. I couldn't believe the man I was looking at was the same man I fell in love with. Roy and Kim shared a strong bond due to losing their father so young. They were each other's best friends and support system growing up. But that doesn't justify him taking her side when it's our wedding and our vision. Back in college, when we were dating, he'd brag about his sister to anyone he could, even if that person complimented me. Like, if someone complimented the taste of the coffee I made, he'd be like, "If you think this is delicious, then you must try the coffee my sister makes." It was annoying but not a big deal, and I let it go, as I knew he was close to her. But this time I cannot let go. It's our wedding, not Kim's wedding. I yelled at him that if this wedding is happening, it's happening like we both envisioned it, or it's not happening. Roy got mad at me, and yelled that I was jealous of his sister, as I can never be as good as her. I am a bitter person for holding a grudge against Kim, even though she's been nothing but kind to me. She said that she was just trying to help, etc. I don't hold any grudge against her. I just want to have my dream wedding update. When I got upset and left, Roy followed me to his home where we fought at the store. Though my mom finally couldn't hold back anymore. She yelled at Kim and called her some nasty names. After that explosive fight, something inside me truly broke. I was already on the edge, but hearing Roy yell that I would never be as good as his sister was like a knife to the heart. I felt my face burn, my heart race, and before I could react, he walked up to me and slapped me across the face. The shock rippled through my entire body. In that moment, I realized that the man I was about to marry no longer existed, if he ever had. I stormed out of his house without looking back, tears burning my eyes and the sound of the slap echoing in my mind. Anger built with every step I took. How dare he treat me like that? How dare he raise his hand to me, the woman he claimed to love? I spent days locked in my room, replaying everything that had happened. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I couldn't go through with this wedding. What was supposed to be our moment was turning into Kim's personal show, and Roy seemed happy to be just a supporting actor, as long as she was the star. After a lot of reflection, I decided it was time to end things. I called Roy and asked him to meet me. When he arrived, there was that smug smile on his face, as if nothing had happened, as if he could just erase the slap and move on with sweet words. I started speaking calmly, explaining how I felt, trying to keep my composure. But he kept that arrogant grin, and then he said, "You're overreacting, babe. Kim just wants to help. You're the one being selfish." That was the last straw. My blood boiled. Selfish? Me? The woman who had given up on nearly every detail of my wedding to appease his interfering sister? I exploded. Selfish? I'm being selfish, Roy. You slapped me, you humiliated me, and now you're telling me I'm the problem? Really? You've never once stood up for me. It's like Kim's the bride, and I'm just a guest at this farce of a wedding. He tried to interrupt, but I didn't let him. And you know what? You're the weakest, most spineless man I've ever met. Maybe you should marry Kim, since she's the one who controls you. You have no respect for me, and now, after everything, you think you can just make me the villain? What kind of man hits the woman he says he loves? He stood there, mouth open, speechless. For the first time, Roy seemed lost, out of control. That gave me the strength to keep going. This wedding isn't happening, Roy. I'm done. Done with you, done with your sister, and done with this toxic family that never respected me. I deserve more than this, and I'm going to find someone who treats me with even the bare minimum of respect. Goodbye. I walked away from that meeting feeling stronger than ever. I knew there would be hard days ahead, but nothing could be worse than living a life with someone who always put me second and, even worse, thought he could get away with hitting me. When I got home, my face was still red from Roy's slap. My mom noticed right away. "What happened, honey?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. I took a deep breath and told her everything about the slap, the humiliation, how Roy always prioritized Kim, and how I had decided that the wedding was off. I poured it all out, my heart heavy but certain of my decision. When I finished, my dad, who had been quietly listening, suddenly stood up. I had never seen him so angry. His eyes were filled with fury, and his hands trembled with rage. "That boy is going to pay," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Dad, no." I started, but it was too late. He grabbed his car keys and stormed out of the house before I could stop him. My mom pulled me onto the couch, trying to calm me down, but I knew nothing would stop my dad from confronting Roy. He had always been protective, but I had never seen him like this. I knew he wouldn't stand for anyone hurting his daughter, especially someone he had welcomed into our family. The night felt endless. I tried calling my dad several times, but he didn't pick up. When he finally came home, there was something different in his eyes. He walked over to me, still furious but more composed. "I went over there," he said, his voice heavy. "I found that boy and told him exactly what I thought of him. And when he tried to justify what he did, I couldn't hold back. My heart raced. "Dad, what did you do?" "I punched him, right in the gut. He went down, gasping for air, and I told him to never come near you again. He didn't say a word, just lay there like the coward he is." My mom was silent, watching him, and then, to my surprise, she nodded. He deserved it. No one has the right to raise a hand against our daughter. In that moment, I realized I had made the right choice. I had the unwavering support of my family, and I knew they would stand by me no matter what came next. Time passed, and news of the breakup spread quickly. Kim and Roy tried to blame everything on me, calling me jealous and immature. But soon enough, people started to see the truth. Kim continued interfering in other people's lives, and Roy, without his sister to dictate his every move, began to lose the respect of those around him. Meanwhile, I moved on. I focused on my career, on my friends, and eventually reconnected with Lucas, an old college friend. Lucas had always been kind and attentive, but there had never been anything more than friendship between us. However, with time, something began to shift. Lucas treated me with the respect and care that Roy never had. He made me feel special in a way I hadn't felt in years. After months of spending time together, Lucas finally confessed that he had always had feelings for me, but never wanted to interfere while I was engaged. "Now that you're free, I can't hide how I feel anymore. I want to be by your side. I want to make you happy." For the first time in a long time, I felt truly loved. We started dating, and what began as a simple romance quickly grew into something much deeper and more meaningful. Meanwhile, Roy and Kim faced the consequences of their actions. Kim, who had tried so hard to sabotage my wedding, had her own wedding called off when her fiancé discovered she had been cheating. The irony didn't escape me. Roy, now alone and without his sister to control him, was left isolated. I heard through mutual friends that he tried to reach out to me, full of regret. But I was long past that. I was at peace, living the life I had always deserved, with someone who truly valued me. In the end, the revenge came naturally. Roy and Kim destroyed their own lives, and me? I was finally living the life I had always dreamed of, surrounded by love and respect. It was the sweetest justice I could have imagined. A few months after the end of my engagement with Roy, and after the punch my dad gave him, my life began to get back on track. I was feeling stronger and more centered every day. Lucas was by my side, supporting me and helping me move forward. I no longer thought about Roy or Kim as much, but I knew from mutual friends that things weren't going well for them. The news of Kim's wedding being canceled because of her cheating had spread, and the image she worked so hard to maintain of being a perfect woman was crumbling. One day, when I least expected it, Kim showed up out of the blue at a family event I was attending. It was my cousin's birthday, and for some reason, Roy and Kim's family had been invited, since they still had some ties with a few of my relatives. I was feeling good that day, surrounded by friends and family, enjoying the party, when I noticed Kim glaring at me from across the room. Her stare was cold and full of bitterness. At some point, when I wasn't paying attention, she approached me before I could avoid her. The moment she started speaking, I knew it wouldn't be a pleasant conversation. "You must be really happy with yourself, huh?" she said, crossing her arms, a sneer on her face. "You ruined my life, and now you're out here pretending to be the good girl." I was stunned by her accusation, but I quickly composed myself. I wasn't going to let her intimidate me. "What are you talking about, Kim?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "I didn't ruin your life. You did that all by yourself." She laughed, a cold, harsh laugh. "Oh, you did. Ever since you walked into our family, everything fell apart. Roy was happy until he met you, and I was on my way to having the perfect wedding until you came along with your jealous paranoia. Now look at me. I'm the laughingstock of this town. Every man I try to get with just uses me and then throws me away. And it's all because of you." That accusation was the last straw. The entire family was nearby, listening to every word. I knew that, at that moment, I couldn't let Kim continue with her lies. I took a deep breath, gathered my strength, and started to speak, loud and clear so everyone could hear. "Kim, do you hear yourself? I didn't do anything but try to plan my wedding with Roy, and you were the one who interfered at every turn. You stuck your nose into every detail of what should have been our moment, and you wouldn't stop until everything was done your way. I tried to be patient, I tried to include you, but you always had to be the center of attention. And now you want to blame everything on me? I didn't ask you to cheat on your fiancé. I didn't ask you to get involved with men who just use and discard you. Those are the consequences of your own actions. Kim's hands trembled as she tried to keep control, but I wasn't stopping. She needed to hear this. You always thought you were better than everyone else, that everyone should bow to your will, including Roy. And instead of supporting me, he always took your side. He even hit me because of the mess you started. But let me tell you something, Kim, a truth you probably never heard before. You are not better than anyone. In fact, you're manipulative and selfish. And now you're reaping exactly what you've sown. At that moment, several members of the family who were standing nearby started murmuring. Some nodded in agreement with me. Others whispered to each other, as if they were finally realizing who Kim really was. Kim, furious, tried to defend herself. That's a lie. You've always been jealous of me. You've always wanted to be like me, but could never measure up. Before I could respond, another voice cut in. It was Yami, Roy, and Kim's mother, who had been silent until now. Kim, enough, she said, her voice heavy with exhaustion. You've gone too far. The truth is, you overstepped your bounds, both with Roy and this wedding. You always wanted to control everything, and you never once thought about other people's feelings. I saw you do it with your friend's wedding, and now with your brother's. Kim turned to her mother, shocked, as if she never expected Yami to contradict her in front of everyone. Mom, are you seriously taking her side? Kim asked, incredulous. Yami sighed, shaking her head. It's not about sides, Kim. It's about realizing when we're wrong. And you were wrong. Roy, too. You both created this mess, and now you're paying the price. At that point, other family members began to speak up. Roy's uncle, who had always been close to him, also chimed in. I always thought you were pushing it too far, Kim. You wouldn't let Roy or his fiancée make any decisions for themselves. Everyone saw what you were doing, but now it's all coming back to you. With each new voice that rose against her, I saw Kim's face grow paler. She no longer had control of the situation. For the first time, everyone was seeing the truth. Kim, who had always prided herself on being the center of attention, was now being exposed by her own actions. She tried one last desperate defense, her voice trembling with rage. You're all against me. You don't understand. I was just trying to look out for Roy, but it was too late. Everyone knew that her words held no weight anymore. Kim was alone. I, on the other hand, felt a sense of relief. Finally, the truth was out in the open. And with that, I could move on. And that's exactly what I did. In the following months, my professional life began to take off. I threw myself into my work, and the rewards came quickly. I was promoted, started leading important projects, and felt more and more that I was on the right path. Lucas stood by me through it all, supporting me in every decision. Our relationship was growing stronger by the day. Meanwhile, I would hear about Kim from time to time. She was at rock bottom. None of her relationships lasted more than a few months. Every man she got involved with ended up using her and discarding her. It seemed like the cycle would never end. She was constantly trying to fill the void she had created in her own life. It was sad to see, but it was also the inevitable consequence of the choices she had made. As for Roy, I decided I couldn't let the slap he gave me go unpunished. I consulted my lawyer and pressed charges against him for assault. He tried to defend himself, denying everything and claiming it was a misunderstanding, but the evidence was clear and my family testified on my behalf. In the end, he was convicted. Roy ended up spending some time in jail, and when he got out, he was completely disgraced. No one saw him as the charming, confident man he once was. He was alone and discredited. I, on the other hand, was at peace. I had justice, I had love, and most of all, I had a new life. I had overcome all the obstacles Kim and Roy had thrown in my path. Now I was walking free, building the future I always deserved. They, on the other hand, were trapped in the consequences of the choices they had made.